Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. I'm Rob Nelson, and today I'm here with somebody who ticks a lot of boxes in my life. The mentor box, the business partner box, and certainly the friend box. Peter Parnegg, thanks for being here.
Boy, that'll just get a guy all teared up. Thank you very much, Rob, and the feeling is totally mutual.
Well, thank you. Peter, we're going to talk about something today that I hope can be part of a series, because there are really four cornerstones of ninja knowledge.
Yeah, four principles.
Four cornerstones of ninja selling.
Yeah.
And they are...
First one is we are on a path. It's printed, personal mastery, but the expanded version is we're all presumed to be on a path working towards personal mastery, number one. Number two, stop selling. As our favorite line in Ninja is, everybody loves to buy and nobody likes to be sold, so let's quit. Number three, that our business strategy is primarily based on building and nurturing and continuing relationships. And number four, connect and communicate. How do we communicate better with our clients? More specifically, the platinum rule.
So number one, personal mastery. And in ninja selling, I think of it as the ongoing practice of alignment of your mindset, your skills, and the daily actions to ensure that they match who you are, who you identify as, and where you want to go.
More importantly, where you want to go. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to bring to the table in the future as compared to maybe some of the things, some of the behaviors you have brought to the table in the past that when you reflect on them, you go, that was kind of cringeworthy. Let's see if we can weed those babies out.
But it's not a destination. It's more of a discipline.
It's a path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a discipline. Yeah.
So mindset is the foundation of this. In the ninja selling context, walk us through mindset. And Eric and I just recorded a podcast that was on Ninja in a Nutshell, where we gave this 30,000 foot view of each of the pieces of Ninja. But drill down deep. Go to the things that are part of the ninja mindset that make up the foundation for personal mastery.
I think we'd have to start, at the installation, often we read the last paragraph of the preface to Ninja Selling. And the question that Larry asks in the preface is, what if you came to realize or accept that we are here not to compete, but to create? And really, I don't think a lot of people spend much time thinking about that, because everything that we've been taught is to win, lose, take market share, win listings. In order for me to get more, somebody has to get less. We live in a win-lose world, and we characterize that by how many hours we will all spend watching win-lose football. So we are accustomed to the win-lose piece. But it takes a pretty significant shift to say, is the world really abundant? In other words, can everybody have what they want? Or is that a Pollyannic, rose-colored glass optimist point of view that is a non-reality? But at Ninja, we make the premise that we have the ability to create our own life. And that is substantiated throughout, I want to say, spiritual history, that we are in charge of co-creation of our own existence. And I think that we have to be careful that abundance doesn't mean always bigger piles of money, but maybe it's bigger piles of love and bigger piles of joy and bigger piles of things that we do have immediately in our control today.
And maybe the top or near the top of that list of piles is self-fulfillment.
Well, I've done a lot of personal therapy in my life. And I remember I actually quoted in the introduction to my book that, I asked my therapist one day, it's like, what are we working on? And he gave me the parable. What you're working on is you're looking like for one grain of sand amongst all the beaches of the earth. And when you find it, it's like having that one grain of sand in your hand. And I kind of snarkily said, please do share what the grain of sand is. And he said, self-acceptance, self-love. And then another one of my wise friends said, oh no, Peter, that's the halfway point. Because once you love yourself, the second piece is the dissolution of ego. Because ego is always the thing that separates us from true gratitude, from appreciation, from joy, from love, from expansion, from the divine, whatever you want to call it. So if we're talking mindset, zip back. We always say that whenever you are afraid, who are you thinking of? And when you're thinking of yourself, you're really centered in your own ego.
One of the core tenets of the ninja mindset would be taking responsibility at large, responsibility for the results you have in your business, responsibility for the results you have in your life. And ultimately, it means taking responsibility for your emotions, the way you show up in this world, and what you contribute or don't.
Responsibility, slide 73, day one. Exactly. Here we are again. No, but that is, and it requires a belief at some level that energetically we do have the ability to control the way we interact with life and then what life responds to. And we can see it all the time. You see that person who goes around just angry all the time. What do they attract? Anger. When you see the person that goes around joyful all the time, what do they seem to attract? Joy. There's plenty of science on this.
By people like Dr. Roger Sperry.
Yeah, like Dr. Roger Sperry. And then, John Assaraf in The Answer, he goes right through this and the law of attraction. And I wished we had dreamt this up, but some people have thought this up before us. So if we go back to creation rather than competing, and where we were headed was this idea of personal mastery, and that in order to have the mindset of a master, if we're on the personal mastery, do we believe in the idea of abundance rather than scarcity? And the way we can manifest abundance is by believing that we have the capacity to create. Most people have a goal for 2026, how many listings and how many sales and how much money. But the personal mastery part may supersede that even. It is number one. Number one ninja principle isn't be a $10 million producer. That isn't where it starts. It starts with personal mastery. So for you, and I'd re-ask you the question, if you were to articulate to somebody what you thought personal mastery meant, what would you say?
I think you touched on a lot of them. The choosing abundance over scarcity is one. Notice that was choosing. It is.
Yeah, what if you don't believe that? What if you look around and all you see is, what bizarre mental delusionary planet are you living on to believe that there's abundance?
I would talk about upward and downward spirals. Because you can spiral up as fast as you can spiral down.
What and you focus on expands.
Dr. Roger Sperry, I said that earlier. What you focus on expands. So that opportunity to focus on an upward spiral as opposed to downward will find the momentum in the direction that you choose to focus. I think the second thing that you said is taking responsibility, period, for everything that happens around you. So much easier said than done. Both of these are, right? What we're talking about here is not an annual business plan. We're talking about a way of showing up in the world that's perpetually evolutionary, highs and lows, good days and bad days.
Perpetually evolutionary. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. I heard something that my son has a business coaching that he's involved with. And apparently the guy who's running this, when one of the people in the group gets into sort of a victim mentality or complaining, he says, "What are you trying to win? The gold medal at the Victim Olympics this year?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, whoa, it's kind of snarky, but it's, wait a second. Are we trying to win the gold medal in the victim or in the player Olympics?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm really contemplating is an old phrase that we've brought up is, it's easy when it's easy. When everything's going great, you can go, I'm abundant and I'm so grateful and I'm so appreciative. But when the poop storm is flying and when there's that collision of because it's going to happen to me. I can see it. My wife says it. You're in a scarcity right now. How do you move out of scarcity? This would be in personal mastery. What tools, when you find yourself in the pit, in the downward spiral, which I think is beautiful?
I think the short answer is gratitude. There is a quote that says you cannot welcome anything new or attract anything new into your life until you've given thanks for what you already have.
Like Oprah?
I think that is really the only thing that we have, because gratitude can be a 5-second exercise that will reframe and refocus the attention, the energy, the dynamics immediately. And it's something that is, again, with so much of the mindset, with so much of personal growth, with so much of running our brain, a lot is easier said than done in that moment. You're flooded with biochemicals that literally are there to prevent you from thinking this sane. They're flooding into your system because at one point in time, we were chased by saber-toothed tigers and we never were able to flush that out of our system.
Cortisol.
Yeah.
It's cortisol.
Yeah. We live in a world today where we get to have conversations like this. And what I'm telling you is that it doesn't matter if you're perfect. It just matters if you take time to try and be better.
I've been thinking about this idea of confirmation bias a lot. And I also have been paying attention when I get heated up about something, when an injustice, or I don't know whether it's a guy in the traffic or politics or, personal interaction. I've been trying to pay attention to whether I actually enjoy a little part of that. In other words, there's something that gets itched that makes me not instantly repelling moving away from it. And I'm just exploring this idea as how many people get satisfaction from getting in a fight?
Well, go back to biochemical reactions.
Yes.
You get a shot of dopamine. There's a lot of really cool drugs that your body pumps into your brain for a moment, makes you feel better than you should given the circumstances.
Yes.
That's a biologically complex thing to explain.
I think the brilliance of what you just said is once you acknowledge it's like drinking caffeine. I mean, I have an external chemical influence that is giving me an emotion that I'm not 100% sure is in any of our best interests. So let's go back to just this idea of poking around a plan for personal mastery for 2026. And we touched on it with our idea of word of the year, but let's expand a little bit on what does it mean to really be on a path to personal mastery, behaviorally, not esoterically, but like, what do we want to do about it on Thursday?
Yeah. For me, it all starts with the belief that the right mindset is essential for the skills and the actions to become consistent. And if there is one thing that we have found that leads people to that self-actualization of, I am consistently doing the right things that are putting my life in the direction I want it to go, not perfectly, but consistently. The mindset is the critical component to putting that in action.
Let's go down that road. What you said really got interesting to me. What if we started right now defining 5 characteristics that I want to show up with the majority of my days, my interactions with my friends, my family, my dearest ones, my work partners, my workmates? What would be, let's toss some ideas out. How do you want to show up every day? What would be some of the key emotions?
This is maybe the wrong way to go about it, but I'm going to start by describing the things that I know are shortcomings.
Oh, okay.
Let me give you a few. Patience.
Yeah. So impatience being,
impatience is a strength.
Right.
Of mine.
I want to go back to that. Things only exist in relationship to what they are not.
Yes.
That is the theory of relativity. If you get down to it, you can't know joy unless you know sorrow. You can't know dark unless you know light. So give me the patience, impatience. What was that? That was interesting.
I have a tendency, if I see the light at the end of the tunnel, to just start running toward it without regard for those that are on the journey needing to process their light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that sometimes that can feel to others like they're being dragged along. And sometimes just giving it a little bit more time for others to be on board is very much it. I don't think I'm impatient with myself, and I don't think I'm outwardly impatient with people. I just don't always allow them to process in a way that's most beneficial to them.
If you were to look at one of the key roles of a leader, of a CEO, it's visionary. That's, if you do any of the strength finders or any of those things, the beauty of a visionary who has vision is we have to get from here to there. Mm-hmm. If you open the introduction to Think Again by Adam Grant, he talks about when those guys are about ready to get killed in the fire, and the visionary goes, we have to start a fire right here, burn it out so we didn't get burned. And everybody else said, I don't get it. And everybody else died. So that's an extreme example of he was impatient there. So the real question that comes up for me is, what question could you ask the people around you that would help them get clear on how they don't see the vision? Because when I watch a leader with a vision and I don't get it, when I do get it, I get immediately on board. It's like, okay, let's go take the mountain right now. Turn on the rocket ships, put the gas in, put the gas down, which is how, and that's your job. You're doing a brilliant job of that. But when everybody else going, I don't even get this a little bit. What's the best way to bring them along if that's...
I think the core tenets of clarity are, has it been communicated in a way that people can receive, not in the way that makes sense to me. I believe that communication is the response you get, and that's where you can answer that question. And I think the last piece of it is the notion that sometimes standing still is easier than moving in any direction.
Oh, inertia.
And there are people who choose to not be clear. So all you have to do is go through the process of, have we created clarity? Are the majority of us on board? Then we go.
Doesn't it really start with, do you agree with the destination?
Yeah.
I think it has to start there, because if everybody goes, where are you really going?
Right.
Yeah. If we're talking about patience and impatience, for me, it always comes down somewhat simpler, someone similarly to compassion.
Sure.
When I think I've explained it, I think it's clear as a darn bell, and you just don't see it the same way I do. I have to also go, wait. There's something there that's important to them that I have to be more compassionate about. What else, if you were to want to get better in 2026 at a personal thing, in addition to patience?
Open-mindedness.
I heard something the other day. Guy said, in my humble but correct opinion. I thought it was...
I am blessed to be around a lot of incredible thinkers, a lot of really talented people. I'll even give you this one. I'm working with a public speaking coach right now. The bar in our organization is set very, very high. And there are times that I show up in speaking situations where either I'm more nervous than I should be, or I am not prepared in the way that I need to show up at my own capability. I haven't learned all of the systems. I haven't learned all of the components of not just standing and delivering, but the journey. And it became very obvious to me that that is a skill set that I need to get better at, and that is one that the stakes are high for me. I don't get a lot of low stakes reps. And so I figured I better practice behind the scenes and not practice on my customers. So ninja stuff right there. If you want to get better at a listing consultation, it probably makes sense to pull your clients out of your practice. Go find somebody, whether it's a professional like a coach or somebody like a office mate or your manager. Practice with them where the stakes are a little bit different.
You can even lower that. Just film yourself. Take your iPhone and film it. Everything I'm doing right now, it's all video review with so many things. And every time it's like, well, that's pretty clear what the problem is. We can go a long way by self-examination, a long, long way.
So
I think that's great.
That to me is in the idea of being more open-minded. The group think inside my world is often aligned with what I'm thinking. Like I have fortunately created alignment with the people that I'm around, and we often are paddling in the same direction, in sync, all's good.
Yeah. And in the organization, in ninja selling.
And kind of in life.
Yeah.
That needs to be disrupted for personal growth.
Ooh. Is that a question or a statement?
Have you ever seen a sentence that ends with an exclamation mark and a question mark?
Yeah, both. I think that's appropriate. I always look for moments as I'm going along where I have an interaction and I feel creepy after the interaction, where I just go, that was not satisfying. Was it me? Was it them? Of course it was part me. And what part did I play in that interaction where I left feeling less than I want to be, where I did not bring the person to the moment or the human I want to be? I'm also trying to get better at, when that happens, say, I don't think I handled that well right at the moment. Because the real question is, how many times are they feeling what you're feeling? Which is another interesting piece. Like, how many times do we project, oh, that person was, and it's like, no, I felt great. And you're going, oh, I'm too sensitive. I have to recalibrate my sensitivity meter a little bit because I take it too personally.
Yeah.
And maybe that's as I'm getting a little older, that becomes more important to me. I want to leave as many interactions that I have with people, with them just going, that was really fulfilling, and I felt connected and heard, and I felt compassion.
I'll share an idea that might be reframing that. it likely has nothing to do with getting older, but potentially with raising your bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's not coincidental that the principle number one in the book is personal mastery, and that the number one thing that we read on the back is about mastery, just beginning with technical excellence in your chosen field. That's not the goal. That's just a little piece of it.
Yes.
And I think part of why Ninja is so attractive to all of us is that it is so much bigger than learning how to sell a house better, which is where this loops around 20 minutes or how long we've been talking, that it is bigger than that it's satisfying, meaningful life, a life of purpose. What if we realized we were here to create, not compete? What if you woke up with a feeling of connectedness? What if you woke up with a feeling of peace? Those are all the beautiful aspirational personal mastery pieces. To put a bow on the conversation here, let's do a little bit of just toss a word out that to you is important in your path on personal mastery. We've got two from you, which are patience and open-mindedness. Mine is compassion, and let's pick three more words. Loving. I want to be loving. I want to be generous. I've decided I think generosity is a real core. I'm generous of spirit, generous of patience. Let's see what else. Kind. Open-minded, I think, comes for me too. I think that's confirmation bias is so wickedly strong. Yeah, kind, open, compassion, patient.
Those are pretty darn good things.
Yeah.
Let's visit the subject of word of the year for a minute, because we're talking about all of these things that begin weaving a tapestry that ultimately becomes your word of the year.
100%.
And I will tell you this, that some years, my word of the year has come to me with absolute 100% clarity. This is it. This is why you feel it. In some years, the calendar turns over, you have one in mind, and then clearly it's the wrong one.
Yep.
I just hit on something that my word of the year for 2026 was going to be focus. It's a cliche one. That said, focus is a challenge of mine because of the abundant opportunities that are in front of me. I think it is an organizational challenge of anybody who's trying to grow, yet we all know that the ability to focus in and know exactly what you do, why you do it, and then find the flex points inside of that, but never leave focus is really powerful. But it's the wrong word.
Well, it's so funny you said that. I was working with a group of people on this week. We were all kind of going around, and this one lady, she said, I always feel like I'm behind. I said, well, tell me a little bit more about that. And she says, even if I get up an hour earlier, all of a sudden at the end, I'm scrambling and I'm never quiet and I'm late and all this. And I said, really, to me, what it really sounds like is that you don't do a good job of prioritization. So that you made an extra hour, then you did all the wrong things in the extra hour so that the things that were most important still didn't get done, and then you panicked. And I said, what if your word of the year was to be smart? In other words, make smart decisions about what to do next instead of focus, because we were all tinkering with focus. And then one person, he said, I don't lean into learning the process. So when it gets hard, I'll do something that's easier. I've struggled with that musically all my life. That when there was a really hard passage, instead of just grinding it out for an hour, the three measures that I couldn't play or I didn't understand, I'd squirrel off. For her, and even for me, is like, let's make a smart decision about how I spend my time right now. So that when you get squirreled out or 9 new ideas, am I being smart with my time right now? Am I smart with my energy? That would be how I would recharacterize focus. Because it really is, with an unlimited supply of creativity that you have, the squirrel comes from another idea. And it's like, well, but what about the 7 great ideas that were already in front of it?
Right.
So I would toss out an idea like, make smart decisions. Be smart with your decision making.
I will tell you that it does not resonate right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things about word of the year is that you can adopt a word of the year and choose to live it. And maybe on June 16th, it starts to resonate. Or you can find the one that just the second you hear it, it reverberates.
I picked the wrong one last year.
Like it tickles your DNA.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it, is just keep going down this road.
So I picked submit, which was a negative word. Submit to the system, submit to a good diet, submit to exercise. I do not, in retrospect, believe that we should be submitting to anything. I wished I had said embrace. Embrace the things that really I know are valuable.
At what point in the year did you realize that you
When
had
I hadn't submitted to anything by September.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you're actually not doing the thing you said, so that means it must have been the right word. And it was because you're right. It didn't vibrate. It didn't resonate. Yeah. I think part of it is deciding what's most important right now. Because this is all about personal mastery. This isn't a goal. This isn't like my goal is to sell 10 million or get good at the buyer process. That's a behavioral thing. This is a character issue. So I think it's more complicated.
It really almost lives in that space of if you knew that anything was possible, but not everything at once, what would it be? That's where I think you find it, because I'm one of those people that you brought up things like The Answer and The Secret and these a little bit esoteric personal growth, manifest the life you want things. And I actually think that way of thinking is very positive. When you pair it with working your butt off and you do it down a path that has guardrails to keep you focused on the goal, and then once you get there, you know you're there.
You know, a way to look at it, this is just an interesting conversation, is at the end of the day, we generally have some sort of what I would call left brain metrics. Did I get my checklist done? But what did I do today that I'm disappointed in myself? Or what didn't I do that I look at myself and I go, I just wasn't the best version. I keep coming to that as what is bugging me the most about myself right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. I go, And if at the end of the day you go, no, I pretty much crushed it. Why do you look at that? And is it simply because I got my checklist done? Is that for you crushing it? Or is it something else? And so maybe part of the discernment here is to get clear, no, Peter, I'm just a happy guy. If I got my checklist done, I'm a happy guy.
I envy that personality type. They do exist. It's amazing.
I know.
Those people also tend to be very productive.
There's this whole world of human design out there. And it's separate from Myers-Briggs or from DISC.
Okay.
But it is that we are, some people are architected to just get stuff done.
What is your word of the year for 2026?
Embrace has been floating around. Habits, one of the things I've been not great at is a consistent morning routine or habits. I can be like the rest of us. I can get a lot of done, but it's like, well, there's like 2 or 3 things that, so maybe embrace a routine. Embrace.
What would it have to look like for 2026 to be a year that you say, I finally embraced? And it sounds like one of the things that you have deemed as a piece of that would be a routine. And is that a morning routine?
Well, there's 2 pieces. As you know, music is central to my life. And my wife and I are on about a 2-hour circadian rhythm difference. I get up about 2 hours earlier than she does. And I happen to have a piano that I can play silently. And for the last 3 mornings, when I got up, the very first thing I did is I played the piano for an hour, practiced. I feel so satisfied when I do that. The second thing is some sort of a meditative practice that it's 10 or 15 minutes every single morning. And I've taken to 2 or 3 scripts of just opening them to whatever page. And every time I do it, it's like, holy moly. And then giving just 10 minutes to be with that. Those 2, if I did those 300 of 365 days, would be a crush year, most of which, all of a sudden, what I know is when we practice anything, when we exercise consistently, our body responds so quickly, and you can measure the progress fast, and that is really satisfying.
Progress is the ultimate motivator. Once you start down this road,
yeah,
and it's the conundrum. And it's Larry's word of the year is grit, which is can you stick it out till you see the progress? Progress.
Grit, I think he defined it in one of his slides, is keeping going when the thrill of the goal setting is expired. I've never been disciplined enough to just go, I think I'm going to try this same thing that I can't execute today for 5 days. You got to just be in the discomfort of I cannot do this thing. And then 10 or 15 minutes a day of that one exercise, all the musicians I know, especially concert level, there's always a 3 or 4 measure phrase in a sonata or in a concerto that they go, I cannot get this to sound right. If you listen to them, they play those same measures and try different fingerings and different movements, and then they get to, I think this is the best fingering. I just have to let my brain learn how to do it. It's just practice. It's no different than the 10-step buyer process.
And no different than many things in life. Do you know what the answer often is? Slow it down.
Go slow to go fast. This morning I was struggling with something. I said, let me play it half as fast. Yeah. I still couldn't do it. And I said, even half as fast. And finally, at this painful, I'm trying to learn to play boogie woogie right now. And it was like, and then add right hand in. And I had to get down to boo doo 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 doo. And then it was like, oh.
In doing it, what is your best friend to slow down?
The metronome, yeah.
Because you think half speed.
Yeah.
And you're counting
at 8
half notes, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting there, but the metronome doesn't lie.
And if you can't play with the metronome, you frankly can't.
And
play.
there's a lot of life there.
Oh, yeah. No. And it creates a groove. Everybody goes, it's stiff. I go, no, it isn't. When it's just right, man, you just sink into it.
It's a pocket, man. It's a pocket.
All right. Did we get anywhere in this conversation?
I think we get it. So it's your 2026 business plan to have the numbers, the transactions, the GCI goal, all of those pieces, a flow calendar built so you know exactly what postcards you're sending out and when your newsletter goes and all of that.
And I know how many people I need on my database.
All
Let's
that.
start
all
with
of those,
that.
all the numbers. Those
Yeah,
are
all the
numbers,
numbers.
all the dates, all of that. But the other side of this is a commitment to personal mastery in the year ahead. And that commitment to personal mastery is not a commitment to perfection. It is not a commitment to 100% of the Ninja 9 executed flawlessly daily. It is not every word of the buyer and seller processes said without flaw with the absolute right diction and inflection to wow your people. It is just a commitment to waking up, having a system, being accountable to yourself and your potential, and then having mindset tools to guide the way.
I haven't counted, but I believe you brought this up in one way or another 5 times during this conversation. Where that gets to me, this is a struggle you have. I heard something a few months ago. It said, perfectionism is a form of self-abuse. And I thought, wow, that's the notion of just enjoy the process, not the destination.
It's interesting. I'm not sure that I personally struggle with perfection. What I do know is I see many ninjas struggle with the reality that if they execute on somewhere between 50 and 70% of their potential, they will dramatically improve their life. These people that you see that are crushing it, whatever it is, tons and tons of money, 6-pack abs, everything in between, they are not any different. They're executing at 50 to 70% consistently, and the ones that are just wildly successful might be doing 80%.
So I think what you're really suggesting, and this is part of Larry's 5 Gs, grit being one of them, is grace. Be graceful with yourself. Set the bar as high as you want, and when you don't hit 100%, Roger Federer, he's got this famous graduation speech out there. He said, I only won 54% of my points. I won 80% of my matches because I run the right points, but I didn't come anywhere close to 90%.
Slightly better.
Just a little bit today. So I'm going to leave here today from this podcast thinking about 2 things. I am going to embrace the consistency of routine, knowing that that gets all the big stuff at the end, and that's progress. That is a path to personal mastery. I'm going to sit with embrace. I wanted something actually a little different, but maybe that is exactly the right thing to do. And I think both Rob and I would invite everybody listening here to spend some time thinking about the notion of what is personal mastery to you. Have you ever asked that question? It sounds nice, and everybody goes, yeah, personal mastery. Whoa, I'm in. And let's put some reflection time into that, because I think this is huge. It's the apex. It's on the outside back cover of everything we print.
It is huge. And it also fits nicely in a little box that you can do every single day, which is Ninja Habit number 1. And in many ways, all of the Ninja daily habits are in some way piece of mindset.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Rob, I have plenty to get to go think about now. And for that, I'm grateful.
And I'm grateful for you. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care. To all in the Ninja Nation, here's to a wonderful, abundant, growing 2026.
If you enjoyed this episode, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com to learn more about ninja selling classes and coaching to get you started or further your journey on the ninja path.
Thank you for joining us. Now go have an incredible day.